and happy World Book Day to everyone at Dairsie Primary School. Hi! My name's Pamela Butchart and I'm the author of books that you might have heard of, such as Baby Aliens Got My Teacher, The Spy Who Loved School Dinners, My Head Teacher is a Vampire Rat, and Attack of the Demon Dinner Ladies. I also write picture books for Primary 1 and Primary 2 like Never Tickle a Tiger, and my brand new one that comes out tomorrow on World Book Day, the new Wigglesbottom primary book, and it's called Dino Chick. Wow! I am coming to you today in your primary school. This is my only World Book Day video that I'm doing live from my writing studio in my house because I had a very special request from a very special person, and I think that's a P5 to P7 teacher there at your school, at Dairsie Primary School, and that's Miss Smith. I just call her Shannon because I was her teacher and I think that's so wild. So I taught your teacher, Miss Smith, for when she was 11 or just turned 12, right up until she was 18, which must make me very old. And now she's teaching you. That's so weird. So, hiya, Miss Smith. She is amazing. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about Miss Smith when she was younger? She was very funny, and very giggly. And she used to sit right at the front with her friend Ellis at my desk, and she sat there, I think, for a couple of years, and then she moved to the back because she got older and she wanted to sit at the back. So, hi, Miss Smith, and thank you so much for asking me to do a little event. So, it's World Book Day today, wow, and I think I'm going to read you a tiny little bit from my brand new Izzy book, and I haven't done this very much, so let's see, here it is here. It's called The Broken Leg of Doom. Now, if you've never read any of my Izzy books before, you've probably noticed something. Baby Aliens Got My Teacher, The Spy Who Loved School Dinners, My Head Teacher is a Vampire Rat, Attack of the Demon Dinner Ladies, There's a Yeti in the Playground. Hands up if you have noticed a theme. That means you've noticed something that's the same about all of the titles. Hands up. Yes. They're all about school. Specifically, they're all about primary school, which is where you are just now. And that's because primary school is not normal. It is, especially your primary school, because you've got a really small primary school, so yours is even probably weirder. They're not normal. They are full of fun and chaos and secrets and revenge and betrayal, because that's just what happens in primary school. And there's a staff room as well. How weird is that? And then there's the toilets. They're always haunted. Hands up if you think the toilets at your school are probably haunted. You've had a wee splash or something in the toilet when you didn't even flush it. Hands up. Teachers as well, classroom assistants, dinner ladies, all the adults, lollipop men, etc. Hands up if you think it's definitely the, it's not the boys' toilets, it's not the girls' toilets, it is the staff toilets that are haunted. I think you might be right. Well, in this Izzy book, Izzy, Maisie, Jodie and Zach, they're actually not in school for the brand new one that just came out a couple of weeks ago. They're in the hospital because Maisie has fallen and broken her leg in 3 places because Jodie made her do extreme dancing. So I'm going to read you the first chapter. It's just a couple of pages long, so make sure your bums are comfy. And let's start. I'll show you the chapter titles because I love the chapter titles. They're so much fun. Bad things always happen in 3s. Okay, ready? I knew something bad was going to happen as soon as we arrived at the hospital. And I knew it because my mum says that bad things always happen in 3s. And 2 bad things had already happened that day because Jodie made us all do extreme dancing, which is when you dance as fast as you can for as long as you can. And Maisie got dizzy and she fell down and broke her leg. And then when we were in Jodie's mum's car following the ambulance to hospital, I reached into my bag to get my Twix because I was starving after all the dancing, but it was gone. And that's when I remembered I'd already eaten it on my way to school. So anyway, when we got to the hospital, I got a weird feeling. And it wasn't just because of the creepy statue in the entrance and the weird shape of Maisie's leg under the blanket and the strange boy with the feather in his hat. It's because we found out about the curse. Maisie and her leg were going to be in deep trouble. Dun dun dun! So they've gone to the hospital, they've rocked up to the hospital and found out that Maisie is in ward 13. And I don't know about you guys, but a lot of people think that the number 13 is very unlucky. So imagine you broke your leg in 3 places because you were dancing too fast and they put you in ward 13. And it smells funny and there's this weird boy with a hat with a big feather and he keeps coming up and saying strange things. And then eventually he tells them, I'm sorry to tell you this, but this ward is actually cursed. So they're all very, very worried. Loads of stuff happens. Things go missing. For example, Maisie's mum brings her favourite toy, Francisco, her whale, in to the hospital. But then one morning she wakes up and he's not there, so he's gone. He's been well napped. And also Maisie hears some weird scraping at night and the lights keep on flickering. And when she wakes up, she looks down at her leg cast because she's got a huge big cast on her leg and somebody's been writing secret messages on her leg at night. How creepy and weird is that? And so they've got to follow the messages. Jodie might end up in hospital as well at one point. Spoiler alert. But it's loads of fun. And if you like funny stuff and stuff that's a bit cheeky and stuff about school, you might like it. Now, people ask me all the time, where do you get your inspiration from your books? Well, as your teacher, Miss Smith will tell you, I've always been in school. So I went to school, obviously primary school, then I went to secondary school, which is where you'll go next, and then I went to university for ages, which is pretty much just a big school, and then I got a job teaching, your teacher, and other people at Harris Academy in Dundee, so I then became a teacher, so basically I've never left school. Obviously I write books as well, here are some of my books behind me, but I just think schools are just the weirdest place in the world because you've just got all these characters already built in. So if you were wanting to write a story and you were thinking, I can't think of any characters, hello, you've got teachers, they can be weird, you've got head teachers, you've got dinner ladies, they're a good character to write about. Lollipop men, I wrote a book called The Phantom Lollipop Man, which is about one day when the lollipop man just disappears and nobody knows where he's gone. And that actually happened at our school, the school that Miss Smith went to. Our lollipop man just totally disappeared. We moved from our old building to a new building and he was there to begin with and then he just disappeared. Nobody knew where he went and I asked loads and loads and loads of people, even the head teacher, and it was a new head teacher, and literally nobody knew. And so I didn't know if he had maybe sadly passed away or if he'd moved job or if he'd gone to live in Mallorca. Eventually I found out that he was safe and well, but it just gave me an idea and it made me think, wow, how can somebody work somewhere for ages and ages and ages, like a dinner lady or a lollipop man, and people don't even know their name. And so that made me want to write a book that kind of talks about, that's funny, but talks about how it's really important to get to know everybody in your school. It's not just your teachers and your classroom assistants, it's everyone. It's everyone who works in the office, everyone who cleans the school, everyone who makes the food, everyone who looks after the school. Because I hear your primary school is a really small primary school, and I'm sure one day I'll be able to come and visit it. That would be lovely. I'm sure that you guys know everybody really well. And I think you should give everybody that works in your school a great big massive thank you just now. A World Book Day thank you on the count of 3. So we'll do a drum roll first. Drum roll please on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you! Okay, so I get my inspiration from school because I think they're weird. I think they're creepy. When I was wee, I was obsessed with staff room. What goes on in there? Why are they always laughing? Why did somebody just scream? I always wanted to go in the places that I wasn't allowed to go, and sometimes I did, and then I got sent to the headmaster, and that wasn't so good. But even when I became a teacher, I was still really nosy, and I still wanted to go everywhere. In the classroom that I had, in the school where I taught Miss Smith, she'll tell you, it was a really, really creepy classroom. Wasn't it, Shannon? It was like right down, I keep on calling your teacher Shannon, sorry. It was like right down in the depths, and me and all my pupils and Miss Smith, we were kind of surrounded by all this old antique furniture, learning about philosophy, which is what I teach. And it was just a really creepy school, and it gave me loads of ideas. But when I was at primary school, I was inspired the most, definitely inspired by teachers, inspired by deputies and head teachers and lollipop men and everyone who works there, especially office ladies. But I was massively inspired by the dinner ladies. Now, rather than tell you how they inspired this book, Attack of the Demon Dinner Ladies, and basically how they inspired all of my books, because there's 10 of these now, I think I mention the dinner ladies in every single one, and I mention the dreaded shepherd's pie in every single one because it was absolutely disgusting. I don't know how to describe it to you. I don't know what the school dinners are like there. I hope they're really, really good. Ours were actually not that bad, but the shepherd's pie was just just absolutely minging. It was just absolutely horrible. It tasted a bit like soap and dirty feet, if that makes sense, and you absolutely had to eat it. You weren't allowed to, well, you know what, I'm just going to show you. I'm going to reenact it. I am going to become a dinner lady for you just because you guys are taught by Miss Smith, and so it's a very special school for me. So give me 2 seconds to get changed into my costume and I shall do a dramatic reenactment for you. And we are ready. So I'm going to be a dinner lady. Basically what would happen is we would be sitting in class and our teacher would say, right, time for dinners. And when we were younger, we used to have to hold hands. I don't know if some of you guys have to do that. So we'd be holding hands and we'd go out the classroom, and we had quite a long walk. It's quite like the school that Miss Smith went to, this primary school that I went to. They're quite similar. Old buildings, you've got to go along really long corridors and down really steep sets of stairs. So we were going along and I was holding on to my best friend Jodie's hand, and I've put Jodie in the book. I was holding on to Jodie's hand and we were going along, and we were just going along normally, and then she just kind of stopped like that, and I almost fell forward, and she gripped my hand and she gripped it really tight, and I was like, Jodie, ow. I was like, what? And she was like, I can't do this today, I can't believe it. And I was like, what is it? And she went, and I was like, oh no. And she says, I smell it. I said, what do you smell? And I kind of knew what she was going to say before she said it anyway. And she went, I smell the shepherd's pie. It's shepherd's pie day. And we were like, no. We just really didn't want to go. So we started walking really slowly. Like, we're still putting one foot in front of the other, but we're going like as slow as you can go. And our teacher was getting so annoyed at us. And she was like, hurry up, stop it. Stop being so dramatic. But we were right to be dramatic because the shepherd's pie is horrible. It's like pure poison, basically. So anyway, went as slow as we could, but eventually we got to the dinner hall. And when we got there, our teacher just said, none of your funny business, okay? Go in and have your dinner and go out to play. And we were like, right, okay. So we went in, but it wasn't okay because it was just, the smell was getting stronger and stronger, and it is disgusting. And it used to actually traumatise me that I actually write books about it now because it was so bad. So the other stuff was actually quite nice, except for the mashed potato. That wasn't quite nice at all. Or the sausages, that wasn't nice. And the pizza wasn't like pizza. It was like they put cheese and tomato on top of like a cake. Anyway, so we went right up and we got our trays, and you had to stand in a line, you had to go over. And when it was my turn, and I think Jodie probably pushed me first, I went up and the dinner lady was standing there with her apron on, hairnet on, whoosh, apron tied, whoosh. But worst of all, her ice cream scoop, because yes, ladies and gentlemen, the dinner ladies at St Vincent's Primary School used to serve me shepherd's pie with an ice cream scoop twice a week, every week for 7 years. I don't know how I got through it, to be honest with you. And I am actually quite scared of ice cream scoops now, or I don't like them very much, at least because of this scary noise. Are you ready to hear it? On a count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Ah! And it was just something about the fact that they used to serve it in an ice cream scoop just to freak me out, especially because my friend Jodie's best friend's mum used to be a dinner lady, and she said that they didn't even wash it before they served the ice cream, and she knew that for a fact because she'd worked there, so that was horrible. So anyway, we'd go up and the dinner lady would have their hair nets on, and they would look down and they would raise their ice cream scoops in the air and say, look down the nose at me, 1 scoop or 2. And I'd say no scoops, 0 scoops. And she would look at me and she would say, don't you be so cheeky. And then she'd raise the ice cream scoop up in the air, down into the shepherd's pie. And then, no. And then she went again for seconds. And I was like, no, I should have just said 1 scoop. And then she got an evil look in her eye right there, and a tiny smile on her face. And I didn't know what was about to happen. But then she raised an ice cream scoop up in the air and went down for the 3rd one on my plate. And I was like, no. So we sat down and we just had to try and eat it. And Jodie used to put a bit in her mouth and then drink her juice really fast, and that sometimes helped. And I think in a moment of desperation, sometimes we might have taken some and put it in our friend Susie's bag, which isn't a very nice thing to do, but we just needed to get out of there. So what I'm trying to tell you is that some of the really good stuff at primary school or at home, but also some of the really kind of bad or scary or disgusting stuff that happens, like being served shepherd's pie that tastes like feet and soap, it can actually get your brain working and inspire you to kind of write about it. So all my books are funny books, and even though Eating the Shepherd's Pie was not funny, it's kind of funny now that I'm older, like thinking back to it and remembering how horrible it was and all the stuff we used to do to try and get out of it, and how Mrs. Kidd, the evil dinner monitor, would just stare at us for ages until we ate it. We used to feel like we were like, I don't know, we used to feel like we were really going to go to like prison or something if we didn't eat it. So you can maybe think of something in your primary school with Miss Smith and your other teachers, something, maybe a food that you really don't like at school dinners, but don't tell the dinner ladies. A food you don't like, or something that you do in class that you really don't like, or something weird that happened one time, or something really funny, or really something exciting, and then pick that and then write a story about it for World Book Day. Throughout the week or next week as well if you want. Now I'm going to give you some tips about how to write a story. Loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of people ask me all the time, how do you start your stories? Because they really want to write children's books, or they really want to write a story for school or at home, but they say that it's just starting, it's too difficult. So I have a brilliant tip that somebody told me and I'm going to share with you. And that is to start your story with a bang. Start your story at a really exciting point. Don't start it. You can if you want, but if you're struggling, maybe don't start it with once upon a time or one day or talking about the weather or my character, you know, has blonde hair or such and such. Start it maybe like a wee bit later on. So like something exciting is already happening. So I'm going to give you 3 story starters and hopefully you can pick one of them. Now this doesn't matter if you're in primary 1 or if you're in primary 7, because you can work together in small groups or as a whole class with your teacher, or you can do it individually, but these story starters will work for kind of any story, for a picture book or for an older book. I actually write older than Izzy as well. I write the new Secret 7 stories by Enid Blyton. Enid Blyton is sadly no longer with us, but people love the Secret 7 and the Famous 5, and I have very luckily been asked to continue them on, so I do those as well. So here are your 3 story starters, and you get to pick one. I'm going to take this apron off because it's making me feel sweaty, because it makes me feel scared that I'm going to get shepherd's pie for my lunch or something. Right, okay, here we go. So the first story starter, number 1, you could start your story with, all of a sudden there was a flash of lightning and I opened the curtains and I saw, I don't know what you're going to see, but you get to decide. It could be a tiny little mouse called Hermeline, or it could be a great big monster, or it could be a really spooky ghost. So that's your first story starter. The second one, I'm quite inspired by opening your curtains. I'm going to do another one about a window. This is maybe for a slightly older book. Maybe, let's think. I heard a knock on the window and I woke up. I couldn't believe it. It knocked again. It's so weird that somebody's knocking on my window because I live on the 25th floor. So somebody lives in like a pure big multi, like up on the 25th floor. We've got some of them in Dundee. My great granny used to live in them. And somebody's knocking on their window at night, which is quite weird, because how would somebody get all the way up there? So you've got to think, what kind of thing could be knocking on a window? Also, is that going to be a funny book? Or is that going to be a scary book? You think it's going to be scary, but it might end up being funny, and that's up to you. And your last one, let me think. Okay, this is a short one. Everyone looked a bit shocked when the egg exploded. And that's because my new book tomorrow is called Dino Egg. Okay, so how are you going to start your story? Are you going to start it with you're lying in bed, you were lying in bed and all of a sudden there was a knock at your window, which was strange because you live on the 25th floor? Or are you going to start with there was a flash of lightning and you opened the curtains and saw? Or are you going to start it with everyone was shocked when the egg exploded? Now, I also, when I get stuck, I've got another couple of tips for you about how to write. So that's the beginning. When I'm going through it, when I get stuck, if I'm writing completely on my own and I'm not speaking to anybody, because sometimes I write stories with, or I bounce ideas off of other people. And I'm going to speak to you about that in a minute, about working in a small group or working as a class or potentially even as a whole school, since you're quite a small school, which is awesome. You're very lucky. So first of all, what I do sometimes when I get stuck during the story is I look around my writing room, or I have a writing room outside as well, a wee shed, or wherever I am. Maybe sometimes at the library writing, but not recently. And I've usually got loads of weird things because I just like loads of keep saying Shannon. Miss Smith will tell you. I used to have wee things in my class. I think if you remember Miss Smith, I used to have little plasticine baby aliens that sat on top of my computer, which you probably saw when you sat at the front of my class. I don't have those with me today, but they actually are somewhere. I took them from the old school. But I'm going to show you a couple of props, small ones and big ones. And I want you to pick one or all of them and see if you can fit them into your story. So when you get to a point you think, I don't know what's going to happen next, think, remember that really weird thing that Pamela Butchart showed us on the video? Right, we're going to write about that next. That has to come in next. So Oh, what can I find? Well, first of all, a small thing. So, because my brand new Izzy book is about a broken leg, the broken leg of doom, somebody very kindly got me a lovely gift related to it. This little matchbox. And if you can see, there's a little nose peeking out there. This little matchbox here. But when you open it, oh, it's a little mouse. And I was like, oh, that's so cute. And then my friend said, pull back the cover. Ah, look, she's got a broken leg. How cute is that? So you could write about a mouse, a teeny tiny mouse with a broken leg. For example, what do you do if a mouse has got a broken leg like that? Like, do you need a very specialist doctor to make a tiny, tiny cast? How did the mouse break her leg? What will happen now that she has broken her leg? That's over to you. Next prop. Dun, 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 dun. What about werewolf? What about if one of your teachers turns into a werewolf at one part of your story? Now, I think because I've got werewolf ears, actually are werewolf ears, they look really weird. I think to inspire you, because I like a lot of noises. I'm not quite quiet, I'm not very quiet when I write actually. I kind of like laugh out loud and I make noises and get my brain working. Sometimes I stand up and just jump up and down for ages. That really, really helps. So maybe as a class you can do that with your teacher. If you get to a point where you've maybe all been writing or talking about stories for 5 minutes, maybe you can all stand up together and just jump really, really fast on the spot for a few seconds. And I just think it gets your juices flowing and it gets your brain working again. But also you can make noises that inspire you and excite you. So we're going to do a werewolf howl all together. That includes teachers, classroom assistants and everyone else who's watching. Okay, on the count of 3 we're going to do our best, most creepy werewolf howl that goes right from our toes, right the way up and right out our mouths on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Well done. Well done for some of you. I'm not quite sure about the teachers there, so I'm sorry if there are teachers watching us just by themselves and it's just you about to do this with no classroom assistants or backup, but we're going to do a teacher versus pupil. So we're going to do we'll do the teachers first. It's only teachers, adults, grown-ups that are allowed to howl for the first one. Okay, so on the count of 3, all the adults. 1, 2, 3. Well done. And now all the pupils on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. My neighbours are going to think I'm wild. I am wild and they know it. Right, let's see. Oh, I'm not sure who won there. You think it's the... Okay. So, you can write about a mouse, a tiny little mouse with a tiny little broken leg, and how she broke her leg, if it's a good thing, is it a bad thing? She might be happy about it for some reason, maybe she's getting free tickets somewhere or that because of it. Or you can write about a teacher who turns into a werewolf, or another member of staff who turns into a werewolf. Or how about some boo pants, which are haunted pants. Woo! Haunted trousers, pants, that's what Americans call them, isn't it? Maybe you've been watching too much TV. So, haunted trousers, woo! Hands up if you think you're going to write about the little mouse. Hands up if you think you're going to write about the teacher or a member of staff turning into a werewolf. Hands up if you're definitely going to write about the haunted trousers. Hands up if actually you were quite inspired by the ice cream scoop. Yeah? Do you want to hear that noise again? Hope it doesn't freak you out too much on a count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Well, I'm sure that Miss Smith will tell me, or maybe even show me, she might be able to take some photographs of your work and send them to me, but I'm going to tell you just a little bit about kind of how to do it together, because sometimes it can be quite lonely to write a story by yourself. And the theme of World Book Day is share a story. And when I was working with all the World Book Day people and organisers over the past couple of years, and we were touring around the country, we even ended up in Downing Street, in 10 Downing Street where the Prime Minister lives, and I had my little baby Albie with me at the time, and Albie was actually only 10 weeks and he was dressed as an alien because my book for World Book Day was called The Baby Brother from Outer Space. So World Book Day is a wild, weird thing that's taken me all over the place. I'm not going to Downing Street this year though. I will be in my study, as you can see, speaking to you guys and writing for the rest of the day. Just writing quietly at my desk, and then, you know, occasionally if I get stuck you'll just hear or loads of other weird noises. Okay, so how are you going to do this? You can write it by yourself, but I do challenge you for World Book Day to share a story. Now, you can do that in small groups in your class or as a whole class, or you can even do it like P5 to P7, and you can do it, you know, P1 to P3, P3 to P4, whatever way you want. But how we sometimes do it when I go out and do events live in schools, is we each get a bit of the story and we write that bit and we don't know what the person's going to write after us. So, for example, you maybe just say one line each, depending on how your teacher wants to organise it. So if you're doing it as a whole class or a couple of classes, 5 to 7 for example, you can actually do it, you can stand up to do it, or you can sit down, whichever you think is best. But you start off with the story starter. So you decide, so just say you start off with the one that says about the egg exploding. People were totally shocked. Everyone was totally shocked when the egg exploded. So one person says that, and then I'm going to use the ice cream scoop, but you could use something else as a talking stick, something else that you pass, and it's only the person who's holding that that's allowed to talk. You pass it to the next person, and they have to think what happens next, and they have to say the first thing that comes to their head. So you can write it down, or you can say it, or you could all say it first, and then you could all go away and write it down, or write down your own story. But the next person might say, I didn't expect it to be a pug that came out of the egg. You know, pugs, like the dog, I love pugs. Didn't expect it to be a pug that came out of the egg, and it walked over to me and it said, and then you can pass the talking stick over to the next person. They've got to say what the pug said. Now, when you go around, somebody might get stuck. So if somebody gets totally stuck, you can try, and the teacher or somebody else can try and remind them of the props, like the haunted pants, or the mouse with the broken leg, or the ice cream scoop. We had something else. What do we have? Or the werewolf ears, or anything at all that you like. For example, we had a whale earlier, didn't we? Francisco the whale from the book. You might be able to include a whale. Or just anything you see. For example, look, I have a sparkly tree here. Maybe it's a weird sparkly tree that can talk, or maybe the tree is also haunted, or maybe the tree is magic and that's why it sparkles. Whatever you like. So you can go around and you can pass it around, and if you get stuck, you can phone a friend. They'll remind you of the props. If you still get stuck, you can maybe choose a person and they get to say the next line for you. So you could do it as kind of talking about it, a story, sharing a story, but you're not doing any writing, and then maybe afterwards you could sit down and you can write. Now, if you decide to write in groups with your teacher, then again, you can still do that together, because when I make a book, I don't make it completely by myself. I usually get the idea myself, and then I talk to my editor about it. And I say, do you think that would work? And I'm a wee bit stuck on this bit, or I don't know what to do if that happens. And sometimes when you've got two people thinking about things rather than just one people, it gets easier. So she says, oh, I really like that. But what if it's not her arm? What if she breaks her leg? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's perfect. That's much, much better. Thanks, Kirsty. So you can, and also the editor does is when I finish writing the story, all the words that are in here, she looks over them for me and she says, oh my goodness, you totally forgot about this part. You never went back to that. And I'm like, oh no. And I fix it. Or she says things like, that bit's really goes on for ages. Why don't you just make it shorter? Why don't you just take that bit out? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's really good actually. Or I can't think of a name for a character and no name sounds like, I'm like Ben, Tom, Anna, and then maybe she says, what about Carlos? And I'm like, Carlos, yes, that works. That's my cat's name. And so she also checks all my spelling. I am so bad. Miss Shannon, oh my goodness, Miss Smith will tell you, even though I'm a teacher and I've been to university and I have 2 degrees and I taught at university as well, it doesn't mean that even if you're a teacher that you're perfect at everything. It definitely doesn't, and you always learn for all of your life. I'm still learning now, even as a writer, and there's still occasionally spelling mistakes in my book that I miss, and my editor misses, and the proofreader misses, and the publisher misses. So people are human beings, and not everyone is perfect at spelling, and I am certainly not perfect at spelling, and I need a lot of help with it. So Kirsty helps with that as well. She looks through my book and checks for mistakes, and we try to get them all before the book gets published. So hands up if you quite like the idea of being an editor, about helping everybody in the group when they get stuck. Maybe you're very good at spelling, or you enjoy looking for mistakes, or showing somebody how they could write something, or where to put the full stops properly, or reading through it and checking it's fine. Hands up if that sounds like something you would like to do. You'd quite like to be an editor in the group. Okay? Hands up if you would like to be an idea generator, which can be like, I do that, but my friend and editor Kirsty does, and sometimes my friends come up with ideas and I think, oh yeah. Or if I do events, pupils say stuff in class and I'm like, oh my goodness, can I steal that? And then they have to sign something that says their ideas are my ideas, and then I steal their idea and put it in a book. So basically you're coming up with ideas. You're like, oh yeah, this should happen, and then this should happen. Oh my goodness, we have to have a cat. Oh my goodness, we have to have a poisonous plant. Hands up if you like the idea of being an idea generator. So you're trying to push the story forward and come up with ideas. Okay, good. Hands up if you want to be the writer. You want to be the person in the group that actually writes the story down. You enjoy writing. That might also be the editor. You can do 2 jobs. Hands up if you want to be the writer. You want to be the author. You want to write the story down. Great. Now, as you probably noticed, my books have awesome front covers, especially this one. I love this one. Now, I don't do this. I do draw, but I'm not very good, but I enjoy it. Everyone can draw. But my friend Thomas Flintham, who's the illustrator of the book, he can draw very, very well. And he's the ones who made Izzy and Maisie and Zach and Jodie's on the back come to life. Now, I've got illustrations all the way through my book. I'm going to find one now. Which one do I want to show you? I don't want to ruin the story. There's Maisie in the hospital bed with everyone around her and everyone is shocked. So hands up if you would quite like to be the illustrator of the book, because even books, my Secret 7 books, which are for pupils who are probably 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, they're illustrated by Tony Ross, who illustrates David Walliams' books, because basically even adult books, some of them have some illustrations in them, but most books for children and teenagers have some illustrations in them. Hands up if you love the idea of drawing the pictures that match the story, that go along with the story. Excellent. Hands up if you would like to be the designer. Now, the designer of my... See how many people work on just one book? We've got me, Pamela Butchart, the author. We've got Kirsty Stansfield, my editor, who helps me get it right. We've got Thomas Flintham, the illustrator. And we've also got Nick Theobald. And Nicola Theobald is the designer. So even though Tom does the drawings, Nicola gets to decide how the book's laid out. She gets to decide where the drawings go. She gets to decide if we're going to do any funny fonts and things like that. Because I like to write in capitals a lot of the time, and when I write something in capitals, it kind of means that they're shouting it or they're kind of screaming it, and Nicola gets to kind of set out the page. So hands up if you basically would love to be the person who designs the front cover for your class story, or for your story as a group, or your story as a whole school. Hands up if you want to be the designer. Awesome. I'm going to show you one, well, Nick designed this. Nicola designed the front cover. Tom drew it, but Nicola designed it. And one of Nicola's other designs, so for example, if I say something that she thinks is funny in the books, so Maisie's mum's really protective, and sometimes when she goes to pick her up from school and she sees that her shoelace is untied, she like screams across the playground, "Oh, my poor angel wings!" Totally embarrasses her. She's a pure nightmare. But Nicola likes to sometimes like lay it out like that. So rather than just being writing, you hear, "My poor angel wings!" And then she gets Tom to draw some wings at the side. So we have author, who comes up with the idea for the story and who writes the story. We have, and you can split that into two, an idea generator and a writer. We also have an editor who helps everything to do with the book and helps the person when they get stuck and looks for all the spelling mistakes. We have a designer who decides what pictures you actually need and where they're going to go and designs the front cover, and with the illustrator who does the drawings. So I'll let you guys figure that out. You can have more than one author, more than one illustrator, more than one designer. You can work as a whole school or as a class or as a small group, or you could even do it individually if you like the idea of doing all those things yourself, which sounds like quite a lot of hard work, but also sounds like loads of fun. I would just like to say Happy World Book Day, and I've just dropped something, so Happy World Book Day, and a great big thank you for letting me come into your classrooms, into your school today, and a massive hello and lots of love to Miss Smith, my Shannon, who I taught for years and years and years. It's so weird. I just can't believe it. She was my pupil and she was wonderful. And now you get to have her as your teacher. So I think you should give her a great big thank you on the count of 3 for phoning me and asking me if I would come to your classroom today. So thank you, Miss Smith, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. We pure love you and everything. Thank you so much, Dairsie Primary School. Have a wonderful World Book Day, and make sure to share a story. Bye-bye! There's going to be a minute where I press the off button, so you're going to see that, but I'm just going to keep on smiling, okay, because I don't have any professional camera people here at the moment. Bye!